1920s, the development of modern international karate began with a most unusual event. As is so often the case in the tide of human affairs, the results were the opposite of those desired by its participants. A popular public spectacle of the period was a prize fight between a Western-style boxer and a judo or jiu-jitsu expert. It was thought that the defensive techniques of judo were inadequate in dealing with the staccato blows of a trained boxer. These competitions frequently confirmed this widely held belief, some lasting only a few seconds and ending with the knockout of the judo expert. At one such event in Kyoto, a boxer, having easily disposed of several opponents, offered to fight anyone in the crowd, a challenge he would live to regret. According to issue number 9 of King magazine, published in September 1925, one of the most popular publications of the period with over 1 million sales per issue, this incident took place in the early 1920s. It involved George, either a Russian or German boxer, and Chalky Motobu, described by the writer of the article as someone with the appearance of an old countryman, who, to the consternation of the event's organizers, came from the audience and offered to fight the young boxer. The article goes on to contrast the 5'3" Motobu, already in his 50s and by the standards of that era well past his prime, with the young foreign boxer, brimming with youthful vitality and confidence. For Motobu, this was clearly an impromptu act. He had no training clothes to wear and had to be loaned a judo uniform to fight in. He was told by the organizers that kicking as well as punching with the ungloved fist was not allowed, but strikes with the open hand were permitted. Hands, that it was noted after the event, were calloused and almost as hard as stone. The fight was a brief one. Unable to land a single blow on Motobu, the boxer became increasingly frustrated, and his frustration bred carelessness. Loosing a powerful but wild blow at Motobu's head, the force of the latter's parry caused him to lose balance for an instant, whereupon he was struck so violently in the face by the karate master's open hand, he was knocked unconscious. Japan had found its answer to Western boxing, quite literally at a stroke. Motobu had moved to Osaka in 1921, like so many other Okinawans, to improve his prospects. His homeland had become a prefecture of Japan in 1879, but remained poor and backward due to neglect by the Japanese authorities. Neglect that forced almost 20% of its population to emigrate to the mainland. The fight with the boxer occurred after Motobu's arrival in the Kansai area of Western Japan, and under normal circumstances would have made him famous. However, the magazine used images of Gichin Funakoshi taken from his then recently published book Rentan Goshin Karate Jutsu to illustrate the piece, giving the clear impression to its myriad readers that it was Funakoshi who had vanquished the Westerner, not Motobu. The already strained relationship between the two Okinawans deteriorated as a result of this, to take a further turn for the worse when, in 1927, Motobu started to teach in Tokyo, an area that Funakoshi clearly viewed as his own. Funakoshi, like other instructors of his generation, based his karate on the practice of fundamental techniques and kata. A quiet and rather scholarly man, the retired schoolteacher spoke fluent Japanese, was politically adept, and willing to do whatever was needed to achieve his goals, including the issuing of honorary downgrades to those who assisted him. Within a few years of his arrival in the nation's capital, he had assembled a group of influential sponsors that included senior military figures, members of the aristocracy, a famous painter, and noted martial artists, among them Jigoro Kano, the founder of judo and father of the Japanese Olympic movement. Funakoshi's plan was to convert the Okinawan martial art of karate into a modern martial way, just as Kano had converted the fierce schools of jiu-jitsu into the sport of judo, which had gained universal popularity in Japan and made its founder a prominent international figure. Funakoshi chose a uniform similar to judo's for his disciples, adopted its rank system, and promoted the educational and spiritual content of karate training above its practical use as a fighting method, just as Kano had done with judo. Motobu Sensei, on the other hand, did not speak standard Japanese, and was much less pliant than Funakoshi when it came to politics. The son of an aristocratic family and descendant of the Okinawan kings, he had little respect for Funakoshi, who he referred to as a shamisen player, an Okinawan epithet for a person of mediocre skill, and as a gokutsubushi, an ingrate. Motobu's elevated position in the rigid Okinawan class system clearly did not sit well with Funakoshi, who responded by denigrating his senior at every opportunity. He suggested that Motobu was uneducated, illiterate, uncouth, ill-mannered, and untutored in the true method of karate, to the extent that the impression the modern reader receives from the literature of the time is that Choki Motobu was, at best, an eccentric and temperamental person, at worst, a dangerous psychopath. Motobu's answer was to publicly humiliate Funakoshi at every opportunity. According to contemporary reports, by hurling him to the ground on one occasion and having his student immobilize him on another. As many of Funakoshi's best students improved, they left him to train with Motobu Sensei, a development that was bound to fan the flames of an already explosive relationship. Motobu was not illiterate, a fact attested to by these examples of his handwriting, which are clearly the work of a person of strong character and substantial background. Nor was he a peasant, but an aristocrat, whose family tree can be traced back to 1655 and Prince Sho Koshin Motobu Oji Chohei. His reputation as a violent man is due almost entirely to his imposing physical appearance, colored by the gossip of Gichin Funakoshi's students. According to Yasuhiro Konishi, the founder of Shindo Jinnenryu, Motobu Sensei was both a phenomenal fighter and an intelligent, rather quiet man with a sensitive nature. An opinion echoed by another Motobu student, Jiu-Jitsu teacher Takeshi Otsuka. What separated the two men most was their view of karate and its future. Funakoshi saw it as a form of physical training that, like the modern Japanese disciplines of kendo and judo, would teach the young to be strong, healthy, active citizens of modern Japan. Motobu, on the other hand, saw karate as a disciplined and effective method of overwhelming an opponent in a physical confrontation in the quickest and most effective fashion. Motobu and Funakoshi were at opposite ends of the spectrum. One, the consummate professional, the other, a dedicated amateur. In Tokyo, with the help of his students, notably Yasuhiro Konishi, Motobu established the Daidokan Dojo. The name, he explained, meant a wide road, signifying his style was broad and open to everyone. In the rules he drew up for his dojo, we find yet another glimpse of a character greatly at variance with his public image, and one that was, by the standards of the time, almost revolutionary. Rule 1 of the Nippon Budo Karate Headquarters Daidokan Dojo states, people who want to join this dojo and train are not discriminated against by occupation, age or sex. Rule 6 admonishes students to never show arrogance. Rule 15 warns members, any student who is violent, displays the wrong conduct or harms our reputation will be expelled. Clearly the door of his dojo really was open to everyone who had a serious interest in training. Piston Horiguchi, one of the best-known Japanese boxers of the period, took instruction from Motobu Sensei on the recommendation of Yasuhiro Konishi. Training at the Daidokan Dojo centered around body conditioning using weights and the makiwara, basic techniques, kata, and the 12 fighting methods that are unique to the Motobu school. 50 years before it was allegedly discovered, Motobu Sensei taught the close-range, center-line system of fighting, using the front hand to attack, while the other arm guarded the body. Blocks consisted of strikes at the opponent's limbs, and parries were performed with the blocking arm held almost vertical, allowing very close range to be maintained and used to good effect. Choki Motobu is best known for Naihanchi kata. In fact, it has been alleged that this is the only kata he knew, a suggestion that is best discarded with the rest of the reputation his rivals constructed for him. He did, however, regard it as an essential training method for real combat and made it an essential element of his school. Although at first glance it is a very easy and straightforward exercise, Naihanchi contains many essential techniques that are concealed from the casual observer by its apparent simplicity. Its importance should be judged from the fact that, according to Choki Motobu Sensei, it contains all that one needs to learn in order to protect oneself. In this kata, people in other schools block like this with the arm at 45 degrees. In Motoburyu, the blocking arm is held vertical, which allows the fighting distance to be shortened, facilitating rapid counterattacks that are difficult for the opponent to stop. This is how most people block here. But we block in close like this with the arm vertical. Instead of blocking here, it is much more effective to get in close and attack the joint, which is weak. Other schools perform this sequence of techniques from Naihan Shikata like so, as a block and a sweeping block. It's not like this, but like this. When he tries to punch you, punch his attacking hand. Other people do like this. This is how we are different from other schools of karate. This movement, the crossing of the legs as you move, is a hidden technique. Actually, you are preparing to kick your opponent when you take up this position. So remember this when you practice the kata. Other schools of karate perform this technique with the arm bent, like this. In Motoburyu, the arm is held straight. You will notice that in other styles, they block to the outside like this. However, in Motoburyu, we keep exactly to the center. So you can see that this technique is actually a tsukiotoshi, strike. Almost everyone interprets this technique as a sweep against the front kick, but this is incorrect. It is really a hidden technique, a kick at an opponent directly to the front, not a defensive sweep to the side. As I said, most people interpret this technique as a sweep. So when you practice Naihan Shikata, bear in mind that this is a front kick and move accordingly.
起きるんです。それをテクニカルのことように見せることです。
This is the stance of Naihanshi. In this position, some people tighten their backside as if they were in Sanchin Dachi. Avoid this mistake and adopt a natural stance instead, with the feet spaced about the same width as the shoulders. To check that your stance is correct, kneel down like this, and you should find that there is the width of around one fist between your knees. This is how we do it in Motoburyu. Don't tighten your muscles as if you were doing Sanchin, but move in a relaxed and natural fashion. In Motoburyu Naihanchi, we do not pivot from side to side, but turn the hips only slightly so the knee can be used to buckle the opponent's leg and ruin his balance prior to attacking him. Naihanchi number 2 starts with this movement, which is a response to an unexpected attack from the side. This is a natural and very rapid movement rather than a technique. It gives protection and also allows an immediate and very effective back fist defensive response. Remember that this movement should be a reflex action to ensure that it is fast and effective. In this scenario, you are attacked from the side. Avoid the punch and let it go past you slightly. Then apply the lock to your opponent's shoulder and wrist. Many people have interpreted this technique in different ways, but this is what my father told me. If you block with just one arm, the attack may still reach you.
当たるわけです。
However, if you block with one arm using a sweeping motion and support your first arm with your second, the block is stronger and more effective. I believe this technique is found only in our system. In 1932, Motobu Sensei published a small book entitled My Karate. Like its author, the book is brief, to the point, and wastes no time in laying out for its readers the syllabus of his school. While modest in appearance, the introductions it contains by prominent people, including the chairman of Waseda University Karate Club, show that it must have been very highly regarded. Until now, the secrets of Motobu Sensei's 12 true kumite techniques were locked in the pages of his book. While the two-dimensional photos indicate, superficially at least, the nature of the exercises, the direction, method of applying the techniques, as well as the nuances of timing and rhythm were not apparent to us. Chosei Motobu Sensei learned the 12 kumite techniques from his illustrious father, and by their constant practice has preserved them for the past 60 years. They should be regarded as examples of genuinely traditional karate that predate the birth of the modern movement and that have no purpose other than to provide an effective means of self-defense.
右手の方、1本目です。
If your opponent attacks your face, move inside, blocking his arm and pressing his hand to control it. As he resists, grab his arm and pull it towards you, striking him in the ribs with your elbow as you do so. If your opponent attacks your face, block the inside of his elbow with the back of your hand. It's important to get in close when you block. Not out here, get in close. As he attacks again, grab both his arms to control him, then, pulling him towards you, slide in and strike him with your knee. If your opponent attacks the upper part of your head, move in to meet the attack like this. As you move in, strike him in the groin. Then grab his left hand as you block his right. Following with a strike to his ribs with your elbow. Engage your opponent and press him until you detect a weakness in his defense that allows you to attack. When he responds, grab his elbow and push him strongly and strike him while he is unbalanced. As your opponent attacks, block him as you would in Naihanshi like this, with the arm held vertical. Get in close when you block. If he counterattacks like this, grab his hand, forcing it down as you punch him. This is not a 3-move sequence, 1, 2, 3. It has 2 parts, a block, followed by a simultaneous grab and counter strike. As your opponent attacks, close in and block him by moving inside with a straight punch. You have to get in really close to make the technique effective. Then block as he counters. Follow with a back fist. And if he attacks again, push him to your left and open him up for a punch. Block your opponent's attack by striking him on the inside of his elbow, grabbing his right hand as you do so. Unbalance him by pulling forwards and attack his neck. If he tries to counter, block his hand and strike him in the side. In this situation, your opponent attacks with a left punch to your face. Block him, then grasping his arms with both hands, stamp on his knee. Of course, in reality, this is a fast and very violent technique, which is very effective. Block your opponent's attack by going forward and inside his punch. As he counters with his left hand, continue moving inside as you force his arms apart and, pulling him towards you and to the left, strike him with your knee. If he pulls back to avoid your knee strike, take advantage of the distance he has created and stamp on his knee. In this technique, you block your opponent's punch and deliver a rising strike to his elbow like this. Then, as he counters with his right, move in close and block his punch. Grab his left hand with your right and, pulling it down and around, strike your opponent with your left elbow. In this technique, you move in strongly to block your opponent's punch, then strike him in the body. It's very important to get in close. I want to stress how important it is to fight at close range. It's no good fighting out here like this. If an opponent catches you from behind, grasp his left hand with your right and, keeping hold, move your body to the right, at the same time striking him in the groin with your left hand. Ironically, while his fight with the boxer played a significant role in the promotion of Okinawan karate in Japan, Choki Motobu did not seek to teach his art as a sport or even a vehicle for self-improvement as others did. To him it was and would always be a true martial art developed from a lifetime of serious study and hard training.